Rajat, great to see you again. And I see that you have a new wallpaper. Tell me about this picture.
Yeah, the wallpaper actually remained the same. I was not allowed to change the whole wallpaper, but we did get a new picture in. This one is actually, for some of you who might recognize the lovely island of Santorini in Greece. It's one of my favorite places to visit as well. So I found this a little bit, with the coming of the spring and the warm weather and so forth. I think it's a good one.
It's nice. It's nice. I like that, and I'm very happy that you're not in Santorini, but you're here with us today. So that's
Oh,
great.
absolutely. I think if I was in Santorini, I would probably be out sunning somewhere or something, or enjoying a nice coffee, or at one of the coffee shops. Many, many, many lovely places. But
Well,
interesting wise, and this is just maybe a little bit plug for Santorini. I think my last trip was there recently, and what I found out was it's not as bad regarding these earthquakes, because there's currently a lot of fear that something big might happen or so.
mm,
So a lot of tourists actually, or the number of tourists have dropped slightly. So my plug for the friends in Santorini, please go visit Santorini. It's a lovely place, and nice people, good food, and I think you will have a nice time. So,
that's a
but
great
there it
recommendation.
is. Anyway.
Okay. So last time we talked about we opened up a can of worms, I think, a little bit, talking about the ROI of AI ventures, which is
Yeah.
quite interesting. And we had a couple
We
of
got a good
conclusions.
turnout, by the way, on the viewing of the video and so forth. So it seems that a lot of people seem to be struggling with this topic. So I'm appreciative for all the feedback we got, and thank you so much for actually watching the video. And I'm glad that you found it interesting, per se.
And one of the key conclusions we had at the end was that, of course, going AI, but do not rush just for the sake of AI. And one of the closing things was where we got also a lot of questions was, but still keep applying human judgment and critical thinking. And this leads us to the topic today. So where we want to talk about like clear thinking in the age of AI, and especially in the age of like complex decisions and everything.
Yeah.
So when we look at that, I mean, I would personally see a couple of trends or two main trends that are somehow, biting against each other, I think, which are colliding. On the one hand side, we have the rapid adoption of AI, so generative AI, agentic
Yeah.
AI, all over the place. Everybody's using that. And on the other
It's, by the
side,
way, it's not only about the rapid adoption of AI, Christian. I mean, we see so many new startups coming up, and on a day-to-day basis, you have new models coming up and stuff. From a technical standpoint, as much adoption is going up, and companies feeling like they may be left behind or so. On the other side, the demand to fill even the smallest gap is being rapidly, yeah, it's kind of like what the internet was, like the www age, I call it some years back. But I'm sorry for interrupting. Go ahead, please.
uh, no, but this is exactly the trend which offers a lot of opportunities. But on the other side, what is colliding with this one is that there's an increasing, I would say, complexity in terms of decision making. I mean, we
Yeah,
have the oceans of informations are getting bigger. We're having data instantly, and we have data more quickly available than
yeah.
human brains can digest it and think about it and everything. So maybe. Well, maybe there's a temptation to outsource the brains of a lot of people who are using AI because it could
Well, that that
theoretically, I mean,
uh, that day and age is already here. I sometimes have that
the,
feeling that I'm already outsourcing a lot of my brain
uh,
over, you know.
the good thing is you have a very high level of starting point, so it's okay. But if we outsource, like,
There's a good
if
joke
you
once,
look,
by the way. For those of you who know me and who know Christian, you both know that we are very, very, very tall. So both of us. So it's I think you had some hidden pun and stuff intended in there.
No, no, never. So if you look at the AI adoption, all the opportunities, I mean, basically it could free up resources for deeper thinking, for applying human judgment, to look at the details because we have more information, and everything. But very often, I mean, the human brain in general is lazy, and so do you see a temptation or a tendency that people are outsourcing that, and like giving the human judgment and decision making a lower priority? Do you see a
Well,
risk, or
let
isn't it
me
there?
let me correct you in on one side. I don't think I don't think that the human brain is lazy, but I think we as people generally tend to find the path of least resistance, right? So you can maybe classify that as a lazy, but in reality, what ends up happening is we try to see, okay, what's the easiest way or easiest solution? There are people who do tend to make things more complex than they should be, and I think both you and I are knowing some of them. But I think for the majority, I find that we try to find the paths of least resistance, right? So again, going back, I think it was two videos ago, and if you haven't seen those, please do take a look at them. We were talking about the introduction of a calculator, right? So with the introduction of a calculator, everybody said, "Oh, people will now forget how to add or multiply simple things," right? But we went to the next level and the next level, and so now here we are in the day and age of AI, and we are using AI really as a master tool per se, right? So your question is, I would say, quite valid, because now what we need to start thinking about is, because the way we still need to instruct to AI, or the way we need to still, I would say, converse with the AI so we can get at least half a decent result out of it. On one side, we need to have clarity in terms of, and simplicity in terms of how we are thinking, but at the same time, we need to be able to communicate with the AI in a rather complex way, so that the ideas that we want to be actually having for the end result, which we desire and so forth, actually is then the outcome, right? So it's this. I don't know. What would you call it? Dichotomy, or what would be the right wording for that? It's just two things you have to be able to find the way to balance and juggle.
That reminds me. I mean, you mentioned about, okay, what we ask, or what we prompt, and what instructions we give. Is it perhaps that, like, also a differentiator for business leaders is not like to what level people adopt AI, but is it about the level of or what kind of questions we ask? Because I mean, we can get any kind of information, but if you ask the wrong questions, it doesn't help. So you need the human judgment, you need the experience and the clear thinking. And we're back to
Yeah.
the clear thinking topic of our podcast here. Is that the differentiator, to simply ask the better questions so you get better outcomes, and that
Yeah.
makes you more productive at the end?
No, I think it's a combination of things, right? So one of the things we talked about several years back, we talked about, how do you make people, for example, digital natives, right? What is the secret sauce for becoming digital natives? And part of the digital natives is this topic around AI, as an example, right? So we really have to think about, what is then making people digital natives, right? And my experience, Christian, has been that it's not really like, it's not like one thing that actually leads to a person being digital native. It's not one thing that leads to, I would say, clarity and thinking. A lot of it, of course, comes from people's experiences, right? So they are able to focus here. What we see currently, for example, in some of the inexperienced people that we work together with, they have a tendency to zigzag, right? So it's kind of a very reactive move. And you and I were touching last time we were discussing, we were talking about, for example, what would you do differently comparatively to in the last some months, that we have done some things on, right? But a lot of it comes out to is, we would do things differently if we were, very quickly just kind of responding to whatever was coming at us, right? instead of taking two steps back, and getting, let's say, the clarity that we need, or this clear thinking that we need in order to be able to say, okay, this is the big picture. This is what we are trying to achieve.
Yeah.
These are the tools that we have in order to be able to achieve it. These are the resources, the people that we are working together with, right? And then bringing that big picture together, right? Excuse me. So there is, I would say, no replacement that I can, and this is perhaps a hope for some of us older ones who are in this area, right? There's no replacement for experience, right? You need to go through the phases of learning, and this is what experience is bringing you.
Yeah.
So, in quintessence, if you were to try to think about it, what we need to be able to do is we need to be able to properly do analytical thinking, step back, and then being able to react to what is the problem at hand, right? If you take
So
it in the context, for example, of marketing, it's exactly the same thing as well. But now let me come to you for a second, Christian. What are some of the things you would do differently? I mean, aside from this lovely podcast that we are doing, I mean, both of us are involved in multiple projects and multiple things ongoing and so forth. What are some of the things you would do differently where you found yourself, okay, maybe I was not doing this clarity in thinking?
that's a good question. So there's one thing I would say which I almost got wrong, to be honest, a couple of months
Almost.
ago. And I was also I'm as you know, and a lot of people who know me, I'm more a fan of human intelligence, but also of course I mean AI is there and there is a lot of benefits. So I'm
Yeah.
also using that for certain things. So what I did is I took some marketing campaign reports, and when working with customers and helping them to internationalize marketing and everything, we also very often talk about measurement, tracking, and optimization. So I thought, okay, well, let's just throw some marketing reports into AI and let's see what it does. And actually, what it spits out is a report that looks polished, that looks nice. And in the first moment, I thought, okay, well, that's good, so we can use AI for that one.
Yeah.
But when I compared the numbers, the original numbers and the report and everything, I mean, there was it was 20% was good, but 80% was rubbish.
I like your
So had I,
percentage
had
around
I had I
20%.
recommended like the outcomes and the recommendations purely based on AI, it would have gone terribly wrong. And that is
Yeah.
why I developed something. We can maybe talk about in a couple of weeks about that. Something, some mechanics to optimize that. So to mix basically AI together with human judgments to get good results. But would I, in case I would have relied purely on the outcome of AI, this would have been
Yeah. So I
definitely wrong.
think I think for me, what is actually the fascinating question now is, if you and I kind of focus on and say, okay, experience is one of the elements that is absolutely needed in order for somebody to be able to say, step back, take a look at the bigger issues instead of always being reactive or so. What happens to, for example, the people who are just starting out in the industry or just starting out on the tasks or so, who don't have the history, who don't have the stuff to rely on? Can that be something compensated by the AI? I don't know, right? Because generally we tend to say, okay, forget about reading all your history, sales reports and stuff. Let the AI regurgitate it back to you, and then you have an idea in terms of what to go talk about the product and make it really, context, not content, context specific for the
Yeah.
customer, right? So the customer, you leave a wow effect with the customer. So from a sales, marketing, or whatever perspective.
And
So
it's a good point. Sorry to interrupt. It's a good point you're mentioning with the younger people who are not having the experience, because isn't it that you need to earn your I don't know,
the
bruises
badges,
and your bad experiences,
the
like
scars.
to learn, because you can only accomplish great things if you bumped into some roadblockers and you manage to get around. And this is where we're back to this laziness. So where people are maybe saying, okay, well, I will never be as good as AI, so I better rely on what is coming out. And what I hear quite often people are saying is, okay, there's a recommendation for a strategy. You can ask AI, give me a strategy for my business, and then a nice polished PowerPoint deck comes out. And a lot of people are then taking this and saying, well, but it was recommended by the tool, and the tool has all the information. But very often it's wrong. So how can we like encourage people more to take this as a basis for clear thinking? And then the second part of the question would be, what about accountability? Because if everybody says, okay, well, the tool recommended it, the tool is not accountable for it. I mean, we
Yeah,
as human beings
I
are,
think
right?
absolutely. I think you're right on that. On that. But at the same time, what I'm currently thinking about is, for example, knowledge in the meanwhile is a commodity, right? Every book that has been written is somehow sucked or let's say, majority of the books that have been written or so, they already have been, included in the training of one or the other AI, right? Or it's in the knowledge base of one or the other AIs and stuff, right? So knowledge is becoming more and more of a commodity, right?
You just mentioned one thing, and Rajat, I very often agree with you. But one thing I would violently tend to disagree is that all books have been already written, so all the
No, no,
information
not
is there.
written. All books have been read, or for the most part, you
Okay,
know.
then I
I,
misunderstood that because I
yeah,
think
no, no,
yes,
no.
this is the great thing that if you look at AI and what AI is writing, and if you ask something, it's always like it's recycled information. But there are so many smart brains out there and
Yeah,
creative writers and authors who are still like surprising us. They're writing a new big book, and all of a sudden you see that even in the age of AI, all of a sudden there's a completely new perspective. So I
yeah,
think there will be millions of more books being written by human people. But that's a
yeah.
different
Well, I
subject, I guess.
mean, the time is ongoing, so it's of course will be interesting to see. I mean, it's kind of like the songs, right? I mean, every day, you have a new hit,
Yeah.
as an example, or every week there's a new hit chart or so. And it's really important that we stay creative and this, as said, coming back to the topic that we are discussing about, which is how do you ensure clarity and thinking and especially during the age of AI. And I would just like to resonate, on this particular topic to kind of say, okay, you want to have clarity on thinking effectively, yes, it's possible, but you need to be able to step, a few steps back, take a look at the bigger picture before you start just kind of zigzagging through the maze of what
Yeah.
the AI is spitting out at you, and kind of yeah, just take it one step at a time.
Absolutely, and this also comes back. I mean, we touched on that a couple of minutes ago, a little bit. What I would call the polished deck dilemma. How do we manage that? Because if a tool spits out
I
something
like I like that
that
wording, the
looks really good.
polished deck that.
Exactly, it's polished deck dilemma. I call it. It's because when something looks good, people have a tendency to say, "Okay, wait, it must be right." And the
Yeah,
better it looks, and also, I mean, when you ask tools something, I mean, if
yeah,
like 70, 80%, even if it's 90% right, then humans also have a tendency again to say, okay, well, I'm better not, I don't need to check it. And this is
yeah,
why
yeah,
I
yeah.
see a lot of people not double checking and verifying information, especially where it matters most. Like the example I gave before with my reporting exercise and experience. There's one. So how do we help people to apply clear thinking, even though they get a report or some data or recommendations out of tools that look beautiful, more beautiful than I
Yeah.
can ever do it, but it's terribly wrong. So how do we
Yeah,
solve
I
that?
think I think this is something that we all need to be working through, in terms of as time is going, we all need to be kind of thinking about how this is going to turn out and how the future will be. I mean, I have this tendency as well, right? You're creating a slide deck, you want to run it through the AI, make sure you have the right words and so forth, right? But at the end of the day, if the person who's observing this at the other end, is a human being, generally they will look at your first two, three, four slides or something like that and say, okay, this is good enough. I've got the message and I understand what you're trying to achieve, and then go with it.
This
So,
reminds me of one thing. Let me know if I'm allowed to share it, otherwise I cut it out later. But it reminds me, I once had a senior leader in a company I work with, a really, really great person. And I remember everybody who walked in his office and presented something, a report, a strategy, a proposal, it was polished decks. It was before the age of AI. And this person always said, okay, show me the two relevant slides. And after the first relevant slide, usually there were so many questions, so the slide deck was closed and it was a completely human-to-human conversation. Am I allowed to mention the name?
you're allowed to mention the name. It's,
Okay, so it was Rajat
we
Kakar.
skip the name of the company. You can mention the person. How's that?
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
so because this was like where I remember. I mean, it was many years ago, but where I
yeah,
personally learned a lot by just the conversation and how you were challenging people, and basically you were challenging and you helped people to develop clear thinking without any tools. And I think this is also in the age of AI where we have more information, where we need to encourage more people to apply exactly that.
yeah. I mean, we were at that time living in the age of Excel and PowerPoint slides, and the intent was not malice or being negative or something like that, but it's more in the direction of, do you believe in what you're trying to bring forward, right? I mean, like, for example, you and I are working on this podcast, right? In addition to this, you have your marketing company, which you successfully help multiple companies, to grow with their international marketing demands, right? And I'm going more in the direction of, business process automation and stuff. So we believe in that. And the question now comes down to is, what are the elements? Why are we believing in it, right? Because we have gone through the process, we have gone through and thought through about what is it that we are attempting to achieve. And then from there, trying to make sure that we can bring forward, kind of, I would say, a solution that the community or that the customers actually require, right? And not just putting content out there for the sake of putting content out there, right? It makes
Exactly.
absolutely no sense.
Yeah, yeah,
So keeping that in mind, I think this is exactly also, as you stated, leads to this, do you have clarity in terms of what is it that you're attempting to achieve? What is it that you're attempting to make? And then go ahead and then do the execution of the task at hand, right?
yeah.
Otherwise, I think there's a lovely German word for it. Is often called, I think, Beschäftigungstherapy or so. I do not know where I picked up that that word in my past, which is effectively just doing things for the sake of doing it, right?
Yeah.
And that sometimes that often makes no sense, right? So
Yeah.
just to look busy, you're just doing the tasks, and our intent and our goal should be that if you're making the use of the AI, right, and the AI is being, let's call it as a workhorse or as a tool, in the context, right? You need to be able to detail the context, not only the content, what you're expecting out from the AI. If you don't contextualize properly the stuff that needs to be done by the AI, you will run into challenges. You will run into, garbage coming out or something like that, which either you cannot use or it's absolutely confusing.
Yeah. I like what you said. So don't focus only on the content, but the context, and that is important. So
Yeah,
I think
context
that is
become,
a
and
very
this
good
is really,
final
by the way,
note
the
for you.
case. Context will start becoming more and more relevant. Why?
Yeah,
Because whatever you're putting out, you have to think about that it's not only the human who's going to be looking at it. There's a high likelihood that it's being sorted out or scrutinized also by some kind of an AI. And if the AI is not able to contextualize what is it that you're attempting to do, it could even be as simple as a slide deck. Forget about the
yeah,
strategy and all the stuff that
yeah,
you're going for, right? If you look into, for example, how investments decisions will be done in the future. Today, you go through, the CEO or the CXO of a company is trying to explain, this is what we are doing. This is what the company is attempting to do, and so forth. In the future, with all the startups, who are focusing on now AIs and I want to do this and this and this, right? And they're looking for funding or they're looking for something different, right? If this is now going to be also managed in the first shot via AIs, right? So
yeah.
before the human actually takes a look at it. And we talked a lot about human in the loop, right, within the business process automation. Before that even gets to that stage, it will be scrutinized. Just like, for example, the CVs are scrutinized often by the AIs before it gets to somebody for actually physically to look at for a job
Yeah,
or for anything like that, right?
exactly.
So contextualizing is relevant, right? So here's another one for you, and maybe this is something that we touch base on the next podcast or so, Christian. But what about people who are having technical knowledge versus domain knowledge, right? How does that play a role going forward or so, right?
How would
Uh,
you different? How would you define the difference between technical knowledge and domain knowledge?
in a very um, in a very simple way. So technical knowledge, you can, let's call it, for the sake of simplicity, somebody who's understanding how do I program in C++, Python, Java, whatever might be the case. Here's the latest AI, for example. Um, I do coding using Claude or something different, right? Excuse me. That's going to be the technical element of it. Domain knowledge is more going in the direction of processes, right? I understand the processes I need for my task on hand, whether it's marketing, whether it is in finance, right? So the domain expertise is more in the direction of the knowledge that you have for the processes that you need to be able to do the things, right? And what the AIs now require is the technical element for them is a commodity, right? You can of course have the AI do everything, but at a certain level, what my experience has been is these AIs also start maxing out, right? You need to be able to do certain level of programming. So you can do, low code, no code, whatever, to a certain degree. But if the partner, for example, that you're working together with, or the employees that you're working together with, if they're only doing, low code, no code, and then, asking or stating that they're doing the technical stuff, it will max out. You will not be able to achieve the best in class and so forth, right? So you need to have that
Absolutely.
technical knowledge and
Yeah.
know-how. But in order for you to be able to do things properly, right? So it's, you remember doing right things versus doing things right, right?
Yeah.
So going in the same direction, if you want to be able to achieve the correct results or so, you need to be able to have proper domain knowledge, and then being able to contextualize that into the space of the AI realm, which is then able to understand what is it that you're attempting to achieve, and then hopefully you are getting the right answers that you as a leader, right, going back to our podcast number one, that you as a CEO or the CMO are able to make valid and good decisions out of it.
Exactly. And I think this is a very good closing summary that you just mentioned. This is basically what we can, like, as the take-home message, give to the audience, is that, of course, first and foremost, and there is no surprise, keep up clear thinking, and no matter what kind of tool and everything you use, and especially I like what you said about context and domain, which stays with the human brains and human judgment. And yeah, you just mentioned, and this is probably a topic we will come back to again and again, like, and this is
Yeah.
a reminder for all the leaders: empower people and develop your people so that they apply critical thinking, clear thinking.
Yeah.
They take the courage to test out things, and like saying, well, the tool recommended this is definitely not the final answer to everything. So it's the human brains. I think this summarizes it quite well. So
Yeah.
thank you
No,
very
I
much,
think
Rajat.
I like the, well, the tool recommended it, so I just did it. So my final words on the topic would be, in the context, here's the word again, in the context of clear thinking, and to be able to do proper judgment in terms of, the business decisions, the marketing decisions, or the financial decisions or so. It's very, very, very important that we keep in mind and the thinking that you always need to be able to take a couple of steps back, take a look at the big picture, and use your proper judgment to be able to come up with the proper solution.
Sounds good. Sounds good. It's great. So thank you, Rajat, again for your time and talking about the big picture. I'm already looking forward to the next picture you will show us in the next session.
Yeah,
Thank you very
absolutely.
much.
And
Thank
from
you.
my thanks also to all the audience who actually bear through with this with us, and we love your feedback, we love your inputs.
Yeah.
So thank you again to all the audience members. It really means a lot to us. And effectively, if there's something that we can also learn, do let us know. For
Yeah.
us as well, it's a learning process. So thanks again from my side, and bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.